¿Cómo va, gente? Acá estamos para tener el vivo con Eva, que es la protagonista de esta película maravillosa, hermosa, que se llama Border, una dark fantasy nórdica. ¿Cómo va? ¿Todo bien? Ahí ya recién estaba hablando con Eva, le estaba explicando cómo hacer el vivo, porque ya nunca había hecho un vivo, para que estoy mandando así, ella enviar. Ahí vamos. ¿Cómo va? Así que todo bien, bienvenido Franco, welcome, bienvenidos. Ahí estaba, le estaba explicando a Eva recién, porque que era el mate, ella lo conocía, porque aparentemente en Suecia beben mucho café y me decía, no, pero el café me cae mal, digamos, pero el mate parece como más tranqui. Y le digo, sí, sí, de hecho el mate no me produce, digamos, ni acidez, ni afecciones, digamos, de nada. Así que nada, vamos a ver si le podemos mandar. Si conocen a alguien que esté en Suecia, díganme así, aunque sea le mandamos mate. Ahí vamos a ver si podemos conectar, porque le estaba haciendo las instrucciones de cómo integrarse al live. ¿Cómo va? Imagino que todos vieron la película, ¿no? Igual está en varias series ella de Suecia que son medias de suspenso, Inland, está muy buena. Pero bueno, Border es un película. Y la actuación de ella, recién le comentaba, no, que nada, impresionante. Ahí está, ahí vamos. Ahí vamos, y transmitiendo en 5 4 3 2 1 y... A ver. Chan, chan, chan. ¡Hey,
Hey!
Eva! It's so nice to see you, to be with you, talk to you. I was explaining everyone in Spanish that
Mhm.
oh, you are curious about mate because apparently in Sweden you drink a lot of coffee.
Oh yeah, too much, too much.
Yeah. Well,
But we
don't
calm
worry.
down. We calm down with a sauna, a sauna. You know, when you call, I was just coming out from the sauna, so that's kind of to come down, calm down. Oh.
Yeah, they're famous, the Swedish sauna, actually. It's like a lot of heat and then a lot of cold. Is like that, or just heat?
Yeah, it's actually just heat, and it's originally here in Scandinavia. It's a Finnish thing, really. But in my family, we do it because we're Swedes, and my mom happened to come from the very north of Sweden, in the border to Finland. So it's something we have done in my family since I was born. But it's basically a room with, you can do it in many different ways. But we have, like, you have you put on a fire in a, what do you call, like, fireplace with a lid. So you close the fire, and you have, and it gets really hot, and you have stones on top. And when this small room get really heated up, like whatever you like, 70, 80, 90 degrees, and then you pour water on the stones so you get the steam. And then the way we live now in the summertime, we just live by a lake, so you know, you heat yourself up and go sweaty, and then you have a swim in the lake. And in the winter time, you can dig a hole in the lake, and you jump in, and then it's very cold. Yes.
Oh,
Mm.
here Franco is asking, is there a sauna in everyone's home there?
Not in Sweden, but in Finland, actually, it's very common. Even if you live in an apartment, not like in Sweden, I would say few people have it. Um, but basically, if you live in a house, maybe you have some room for it. But in Finland, it's like, if you live in a modern apartment in the city, on everywhere, you can find a sauna. Yes.
Oh, I
Mm.
will ask. I have a good friend of mine, an artist who works in Finland. He's living there. He's
Mm.
married to a there, and if it is near, maybe he can send you mate because he drinks mate. So if you're near the Finnish border,
Not really. No, not really. But I actually work in Finland right now. I go
oh,
back and forth. Yeah, I'm shooting a new TV series, a Finnish HBO TV series called
oh,
ID. Yeah, So we are doing that till October. I'm gonna go back and forward. Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Then you will receive your mate, don't worry.
That's nice.
Um, I want to ask, well, how did you start, working as an actress when you were little? How did you start before, entering the films and everything? What was where the passion came from?
I remember since I was a kid, I was one thing I was an observer. I really like enjoyed when I start school or before, just watching other people and trying to make fantasies of how it would feel like to like move like that person or walk in those kind of shoes, or like, oi, that's a very temper, what is that all about? I guess that's one part of it, and the other part is also playing around like as a kid, up in late age, like early teenager. I still was playing with a friend, like going into doing different characters and like, what do you call it, um doing live things, but for yourself, like you and a friend, and writing like books about these characters, and then decided, okay, now the play begin, and then we were doing those characters at the same time as we were like moving around. And I've always liked playing, and that's the same thing I do still. And even though I've been struggling a lot, of course, coming into, different schools and having jobs and doing this really, really hard work, but at this time in life, I must say I'm kind of a little bit back to just being very happy playing with telling stories. That's really what I'm doing. But yeah, so but I'm not from a theater family or like an art family, or I'm just from a very basic, what to say, but nothing like that. And I didn't go to acting school. I was doing science, and I was thinking of maybe becoming a psychologist. I was very interested in psychology. When I was 16 years old, I went to New Zealand for on an exchange program. And there also I found that, there are so many things you see around you, and you want to tell it. So I don't know, if I didn't act, maybe I would be a writer. I don't know. But I haven't practiced writing so much, so I'm not so good at it. But telling
Someone
stories.
Someone here is asking, what's your relationship with fantasy and horror when you were little, and what's your favorite horror film?
Wow. I might make you disappointed, but I'm not like a super horror or sci-fi person. Like when I was kids, I would mention films that you would like, oh, come on, it's definitely not a horror film. Oh, wait a minute. When I was a kid, I was watching this Poltergeist. What would you say?
Polter.
But that's not really a horror film. I think, like, as
Well,
your interest
yeah.
is like more specific. I'm very not what to say. You see what I mean?
No, but what about fantasy? Because North fantasy, it's amazing. Starting for Lord of the Rings, all the mythology they have there. You love all those stories? Because Border, it's a dark fantasy folk. It's a beautiful dark fantasy folk.
Yes. So, but for me, it would be more reading stories of fairy tales with, maybe some parts of the Nordic inside it. But my favorite horror movie, I'm sorry to say, but I don't really, when I was a kid, can't really remember watching any specific. Yeah.
No, what I love about the Nordic fantasy films, because people say it's horror, but I call it fantasy or dark fantasy. In the case
Dark
of Border,
fantasy, I see. Yeah, yeah.
because I mean it's not really horror. It's they combine drama and they use the fantasy elements to talk about certain issues. Because, for example, let's take Lamb from Iceland. They talk about child abduction in a way, but they use the fantasy to talk about this issue without, because when I see a movie about a realistic subject, it's hard to watch. When you put the fantastic element, you can talk about this
Oh
subject
yeah.
without being, I mean, for me, because for reality, I have real life and it's hard enough for, and by telling these stories, you can talk about this thing. And Border, for example, it talks about a lot of, trying to accept who you are, feeling alienated in a society you don't belong to, finding your true nature. And how did you arrive? How did you arrive to Border? I mean, how do you meet the director? Did you know the writer?
It's based on a Swedish short story, yeah, with the same name, and that author I've been reading books of before, John Ajvide Lindqvist, and he was also one of three making this short story into the manuscript, where the director Ali Abbasi was another one, and then another film director and screenwriter Isabella Eklöf was the third one. But me, I was this specific short story I hadn't read before. And when I was asked to come to this casting, I was, doing my work. I was reading this short story to start with. And I thought it was just so good. It's like, oi, this is so interesting, because John Ajvide Lindqvist is the same as you're describing, horror fantasy, or it's a way to talk about topics in reality right now, but to put it in other clothes. You can find ways of talking about, as you said, the theme of the film, one of the themes, like being an outsider. And of course I was like, wow, I had no idea how they were going to make this film out of this short story, but I read it, and I didn't read the manuscript. I just got like a couple of scenes to try, and I was really like, oi, this really depends on the director, because it can be, it's a risk, proclaiming you're a troll, that, with a lot of prosthetics and everything. It's like, wow. But in my gut feeling was like, after that I met Ali Abbasi, and actually the other guy, the other troll, Eero Milonov, the Finnish actor, they were at this casting, and I came in there through the door, and we started to talk, and I can't really remember what we were talking about, but when we started to work with the scenes, I just immediately felt like, okay, I trust these guys. They're just so intelligent and cool, and 100% there and on the target, and I felt comfortable. And after that, I just felt like, if I get the part, I need to do this, even though I have no idea how it's gonna come out. And at that moment, I had watched one for the casting too, and to get to know the director a little bit. I watched the film that he has made before. At the moment, I can't remember. I'm just thinking of his new one, Holy Spider, but that's another story. But so I just went there once, and I felt okay. With those two guys, I can do whatever.
Yeah, the co-protagonist. It's amazing too that his performance. I mean, the way that the two characters interact, it's amazing. I mean, it's so heartbreaking at the same time. I mean, the relationship, it's so strong. I mean, were you surprised by the success of the film around the world? I
Sorry,
mean, because I know it's a... Sorry?
actually now it's I cannot hear what you're saying because it's kind of what
Oh,
you're saying.
can you hear me?
Going like that. Now I hear you. So let's
Okay.
have another
No,
go.
I was saying I was impressed by the performance of both of you. I mean, and the relationship between the characters and how you express that, because you have a lot of prosthetic, but you can feel the emotions. And I know it was an indie film. I know the director. I know his work. He's amazing. Also, it's brilliant. But I know. But you were surprised by the success of the film around the world? Because I have people, they have write me from everywhere, say, wow, this
Oh.
film.
Well, yeah, I didn't think it would like come out that way at the same time as I don't know. When I do stuff, I never kind of think of how they're gonna end up. But when we went with the film to the festival in Cannes and we premiere in Cannes, those like thousands of people in the audience, and they were just, you know, standing up in the end, clapping their hands. And I was like, that was a moment when I was like, oi, wow, I didn't see this coming, you know, because yeah, it's me. I have like, I'm so focused on my work, and no, I didn't think that far. I just, you know, stick to the plan and did what I was supposed to do. And then I was jumping into the theater, coming back to, you know, trying to lose some weight and do some physical work and get back on track with other jobs after shooting this film. And then suddenly when I was doing Richard in Richard III at a theater, and they just called and said, okay, but hey guys, we're going to Cannes. And I'm like, oi, wow. You mean now or what? Yeah, in 2 weeks. I'm like, oi, wow. And then we stepped like on the airplane going there, and after being in Cannes, it just spread around the world. And no, I couldn't see that coming. I'm very, very, very thankful for that happening, because we've been traveling around with the world with the film and meeting so many people from different parts of the world. And you know, I'm so proud and happy how it came out and how it got spread, because that's what you
Mm,
want, isn't it? When you just
yeah.
want to share your work with other people.
Mm,
So I was just like, I really hope that this is not going to be like too narrow. And in Sweden, they're like, yeah, we can have it on the cinema, but maybe for 2 weeks, and then you should be happy. You know, I'm like, I hope it will be more than that. And it was. So.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you never know. I hope the director do more films, because he's amazing. I mean, really. And
Mm.
he was very brave to do, because I know my friends in Swiss in Sweden, they told me these kind of films, they are not very common. Also in Argentina, I mean, I think genre film, they are not common everywhere. So it was
Mm.
a risk for you, and I mean the
Mm.
result.
Mm.
And something I really appreciate, there are certain scenes when you do expressions, even sounds, you know, these characters, this troll, because he has to pretend he's human, but inside he's a troll.
Mm.
And that was on the script, all the sounds, or that's something you work with your fellow actor and the director, you improvise?
Actually, I there is a wonderful voice voice teacher coach, I pro called Nadine George, who she lives in England. And when I've been to acting school in Sweden, I went 4 years to acting school. I met her once, I think, but when I stopped school, I just remember her work, and I was like, oh, I'm really interested in what she's doing. I'm very curious. I want to, know more. And then I saw that she was coming to Sweden uh, quite quite frequently before, like once a year at least. And I started to do. Now I've done 2 courses for her, and then I must say the work I've been doing with her was the work that made it possible for me to work exactly about what you were talking about. And actually, so when I got this part in Border, I was just like, I was ready for it. The course with Nadine George I had done years before, but I had started to discover my voice and work with, I've done voice work, like going, crossing your borders of how you think you can talk and sound, and noises. I mean, all of you listening to this can, you can sound very different from what you do every day, even though, it's very interesting. So thanks to Nadine George, I would say, when the time came and I got this part, I was ready for it. And I was just like, wow, now I can use it. Now I can walk through my, I can't remember the name of it, those things going in your...
vocal cord.
Yes, thank you. The vocal cords. I knew that, okay, I know how to work with those ones now, and I could do it. So, and then there was a lot of other stuff. That was the voice, but then I was also Tina, this character. She's working like a dog, they don't have dogs at her job because she's supposed to be like the one sniffing around. And then I was like, okay, but I better have a look at the dog. So I was also, watching dogs on YouTube, how those working with finding like how they, and then the nose and the mouth is like one thing on a dog. So I started to practice with like how could I move it. And then of course you had this prosthetic, the face full of prosthetics, which took 4 hours to put on. So it was like 9 pieces. And that was also a very specific work with Ali Abbasi, the director, to find out like how to move the face and how does it look in the camera. And my biggest worry was like, I'm so happy and glad when you say that the emotions come through, because that was the hardest thing. Having those strong emotions and like a face of silicone, like how do I get through? Somebody has just glued my whole toolbox. This is why I don't believe in Botox or fillers, because I'm gonna my my toolbox is gone if I would. But anyways, I had to work so hard with very strong emotions and feel, so I could like squeeze it out through my eyes. Yeah.
Wow. Here Franco Bardelli asking, their interaction is amazing. How was the director explanation for you to develop that? The expressions, the sounds?
With the sounds and the I mean, he would direct, like a good director who can direct you. What language you use is, I find that good directors, they I mean, good or bad, but I find that Ali Abbasi, I find him a very good director. His language, how to direct you into things, is about communication. He will kind of, look very carefully at you and see, do I understand what he's trying to push me? And sometimes I found also out that I didn't understand. He said, okay, can you just try to do this scene like a little bit more like this? And I was like, interesting. I hadn't thought about that. And I did it. And then I felt like, yeah, this is absolutely something coming out. And that's not so much this technical stuff with the voice and the face. I guess we, after practicing before, we found out a language, how to speak to each other about those things. So we created a language in common, so we could use like a little bit more, a little bit less, more animal, more human, more. I don't know if these were the words, but that's how we were working.
What about the work with your fellow actor? Because he's also amazing. I mean, how do you work the relationship between the two characters? Because it's, it's a very interesting relationship because your character finds out she's not alone in a way. She's not with, but at the same time, the other character has, a hidden agenda or different values, maybe. How did you work that with your fellow actor?
I think as I remember it, it was a few years ago, but as I remember it, we didn't talk so much about being a troll or not being a troll. It was more like we found our own ways of how to create this, and together with Ali, and then the meetings, I mean the situations together, that would kind of be phrased in other words, like nothing about being a troll or not, but who is very much like, who is this guy like me? Because it's very different. His character knows from the very beginning who he is, and my character, she didn't know. So she would look at him and think like, who is this guy? Who is this human guy? Like, he's a bit special, but a bit familiar. And yeah, I would, since Tina was thinking of herself being a human, that's how I would act it. And then I would act like I was working with Tina, like the costume designer, Elsa Fischer. She was very, like, she had this brilliant idea about also the clothes being too small. Like you would, and I was working with like going into a car or coming out from a car, or just this house that I lived in. My character lived in, that it was like just different rooms in a house would feel awkward. It should just be an open space. So I was working with those very physical point of view, like in a physical point of view, that always having a feeling of that things around you are built for someone else, but not for you. The shoes would be too narrow, the clothes would be too small, the roofs are too low, to walk through a door, like pass through a door would feel like you had to squeeze yourself. So constantly just laying in a bed, like, why would you lay in a bed, something flat with 4 legs, when you can just lay out in the forest? So that's how I was working with it, that everything which was not out in the forest. Oh, my baby is crying now.
Oh.
Oh, okay. He's with his granddad. His dad is not here. Okay. But I guess it's like falling asleep crying. So okay. But that's how I was working, with things.
I wanted to ask you, what was your favorite scene of the film and why? And what was the most difficult scene to shoot?
Now I have to think. I think one of the favorite scenes to shoot was when we were eating snails. Yeah, when we had this, you know, when he was coming for dinner,
Yeah.
and my character had dressed up a little bit, and my asshole boyfriend was like, I felt like I could kind of stab him back a little bit by having this very funny guy who visiting the other troll, Vore. I didn't feel scared of him, but I could see how my asshole boyfriend was like, you know, feeling scared of him, and that felt good, kind of. And how we like ate those snails, and like the way of attacking the food, and yeah, that was a really nice scene. Probably my favorite one to shoot. The hardest one I'm thinking of is the one on the ferry. Just because it's very hard to shoot scenes outside on the ferry. I've done it actually at least once before, and it's like, it's so windy, and it's like you're supposed to speak like this normal, but nobody can hear what you're saying, and the wind is coming, and it's like, those things are, you never think of it. You think probably that maybe some kind of emotional scenes or the sex scenes, or that would be like hardest, but I never find that. I find that it's usually when the practical things surroundings are hard, that's when it's hard. Yeah.
No, well, yeah. I mean, there.
And cold, of course, when we were
Yeah,
swimming. When we were
yeah.
swimming, yeah, that was hard, but I'm used to, you know, have sauna and do those very cold dips in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
water when it's ice on top. So I it sort of made me feel strong to
Yeah.
manage to do it. But it was hard. That was tough, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, do you know have you personally know the writer? Are you in contact with him? Because he's amazing. I mean,
He's amazing. He is amazing. Uh, I've met him a couple of times after this filming, because he happened to live far out by the sea, and being neighbor to one of my actor colleagues. They happen to be very good friends. So I had the opportunity to meet him again. Otherwise, we don't have like frequent contact. No. I adore his job, and I would be so glad to meet him again, and I'm sure we will. But we don't have any like we don't talk often or write to each other.
did you know that last week on Sunday we did a special live with about Nordic horror? We talk about your film. We talk about Let the Rain Man In from Finland, Lamb, and with the producer Brandon Braga from the States, who produced a lot of shows, and he also was impressed by your performance, by the film. I mean, as a fans of this kind of stories, it's not horror; it's more like dark fantasy. I mean, it's. I mean, I told him we are going to talk with Eva. Oh wow! Tell him it's a perfect.
Nice.
Have a lot of fans, as I told you. I mean, really around the world. And have you thought about working, in different continents? If you have the opportunity, would you work, for example,
Absolutely. Yeah,
in Latin America? I don't know. It would be an
absolutely.
honor.
Yeah, I really do enjoy working and traveling with in other in other countries and other cultures than your own. Yeah, easy. I would come. I would go
Oh,
if there's anything that, like, would work with the rest of the life, and it's a good story, and you know, and you get on well with the director, and you know, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I actually, I imagine for an actor, it must be really interesting to, you know, do films in different culture. I was watching an interview, Ron Perlman, you know, the guy who played Hellboy, this American actor.
Yeah, yeah,
He was
yeah.
saying that the beginning of his career, he has a problems finding jobs in the US. And he started working with different directors, Guillermo del Toro when he wasn't so famous, and also Jean-Pierre Jeunet. And he found that working in different language, he do a film in Spanish, then a film in French, was like for a very interesting experience for an actor, because you work with different sensibilities. It's not the same working with a Mexican director or French director in Mexico and France. Would you agree with that? The idea of, you know, nurture from different cultures.
I see. Of course, the language is an expression of your living. I hear my baby crying.
Oh, do you need to go? We can continue later or other day. Don't worry.
No, but we'll give it some time. We'll give it some time. Maybe he will fall asleep. You give it another few minutes. But so we're talking about, because this is the thing with language being your, like, to work in your native language is, of course, the language you can be so specific, and you know, it's so, you have so many possibilities to express yourself or your character with your native language when you compare to working in other languages. But did you discuss that? Because that's something I've been thinking of, that since I'm a Swede, yeah, I could, you know, I could learn other languages to work, but it wouldn't come as close as I can in Swedish.
Of course.
Okay, I think, I'm sorry, could we continue like in 10 minutes, or would that be a disaster?
No. Tell me, or if we can continue another day. Don't worry. I mean, whatever you want. Or in 10 minutes.
I think he sounds a little bit desperate. I'm sorry. I thought he would
Okay.
sleep.
Let's go. I'll continue later if you want. Don't worry.
But can I call you in like 10 minutes?
Yes. Don't worry. Guys, we will continue.
I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, no.
No,
it's okay. It's okay.
This is life.
Well, guys, it happened.
I call you back in 10 minutes.
Right.
Okay.